Last week, Ashley and I got to see Liberation, a new play on Broadway by Bess Wool that tackles intergenerational ideas of feminism as it follows 6 women in the 1970s Ohio in their consciousness raising groups. We were blown away by the honest critique of the way generations look at each other, what some might call the failure of contemporary feminism, and the feelings of sadness we have now as we watch a lot of the rights that those women fought for be rolled back by the current administration. We were lucky enough today to talk to Whitney White, the director of Liberation and a Tony-nominated director, actress, musician, all-around incredible artist. This year, Whitney White also directed The Last 5 Years, Walden, along with Liberation, in addition to being nominated for her direction of Jaja's Hair Braiding last year on Broadway. She lives in Brooklyn, and I am so honored and excited to get to have her on Good Noticings. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show, Whitney White.
Thank you so much for being here, Whitney White, the director of Liberation, and a lot of other stuff that we're going to get to later. Actor. I mean, you do a lot. Before we get to it, I want to know your background, and because I know you grew up in Chicago or outside Chicago.
In Chicago,
okay.
Not in the suburbs.
I'm the suburbs.
I'm a city girl in Chicago, in Wrigleyville. That's where I grew up.
Oh, amazing. Okay, I saw that one of the first projects you worked on was at a theater in Skokie, and I was like, wow, okay, cool. That's my turf anyway. So walk us through your background.
Okay. First of all, thank you for having me. It's like always a pleasure to get the opportunity to take a second and talk about it all. So thank you. I am a Chicagoan. I'm like a very proud Chicagoan. I am a Cubs fan.
Whoop.
Fans, we can talk about it, email me about it. We can get into it. But yes, I choose Cubs over Sox. It's my own plight. And I grew up in Lakeview or Wrigleyville, depending on what you want to call it or what block you're on. And it all started with church. I like to say that music was my gateway drug into this wild and wonderful life that I'm living right now. And I was enrolled in a Catholic school. And back in my day in Catholic school, you would have to take something called liturgical music. And was in that class, you would learn all the kind of the liturgy and the songs that you sing in a Catholic mass, but you also got a hymnal and it had the notes and the music in it. So I learned how to read music really young from that class. At the same time, my grandfather would take me to a Black church on the South Side, the Apostolic House of God, which couldn't have been a more different cultural experience. However, it was also centered around music, except we had an 8-piece band and a 50-person choir. And so it was these dueling kind of religious musical experiences that helped me fall in love with communing around spectacle and performance and what can happen to a group of people when they are watching something together that makes them feel something. And then, my mother was a saint and like paid for all these voice lessons. And I played the trombone for a while. Oh, shout out to my mother. That poor lady had to listen to me play the trombone for several years of her life. Okay. And then finally I was cast in my first musical in high school at the Latin School of Chicago. And it was a production of Oklahoma.
Wow.
And it was thrilling. And I was hooked, and then after that, I did theater and musical theater at Northwestern. But I was a weirdo. I was always a weirdo, and I still am, I guess, because I never really fit into one box. Like I applied to Northwestern as an opera singer, but I ended up getting my major in political science, but a certificate in musical theater, And then after Northwestern, I was like a musical theater actress. I like to joke like, I was in every show you could be in that time. I was in Rent. I was in Hair. I did Showboat. I did Passing Strange. I was just like an actor, performer, and I hit a wall. I hit a serious wall because in that time, the options available to me felt unsustainable. I could either be a token best friend or let's say a hypersexualized person without a lot of depth and background, or a caricature of the hood and Black culture. There weren't, I felt like this can't be it. Like my life as a woman is not this small. So this can't be my life as an artist. And then I applied to Brown, and there I found directing. In the MFA program, I really found directing and found, my voice. That was a long answer. Sorry.
No, that's what we were hoping for. I'm so excited because it sets me up perfectly to ask my question, which is, and this might be a dumb question, but I'm always so curious about the role of director, be it in film, be it in plays, because I feel like I always think script first. And
Uh-huh.
I was wondering if you could talk about your experience and like your ideology around what the director does between the script and the production, like how you see yourself, what you believe your role is generally in theater, and then specifically because we're here to talk about Liberation, the play we just saw 2 weeks ago, where maybe we could see your fingerprints specifically on this performance that you think maybe a different director would have taken a different route, like how we
Yeah.
see you in these performances.
I think it is always so funny that people don't really understand what directors do. But when you go to see a play, or you go to see a film, let's just stick with theater. Everything that you see and experience, a director has had a hand in. Literally everything. From every lighting choice, every costume choice, the way the language sounds, the moves the actors make on the stage, we call that staging. The rhythm with which people are talking, we call that pacing, right? A director's journey for me begins on first read. When I first read a script, I do this thing called analysis, and I spend hours, sometimes 40 hours on one script trying to understand, what does the script mean to me? What does it sound like to me? Does it sound like poetry, or does it sound like the language we speak? Do I get any weird images in my mind? What kind of music comes to mind? What do I smell? Who does it remind me of? What films does it remind me of? I go on this journey that takes me days to kind of find my conceptual understanding of the play. And then from that first read on, as soon as I find my conceptual understanding towards the work, I do everything I can to bring that concept to life. My next step after the read is hiring designers that I think will help bring that vision to life and bring their own work to it, right? Then we hire actors. Then sometimes we do workshops to make sure it's working. Is my understanding of this play working? And then if you're lucky enough, if you survive all of that, you get to do a production. And so for Liberation, our first production was at the Roundabout. And during that time, it's a time of experimentation, right? How do the characters sound? How should they be embodied? What kind of divas in the real world do they remind me of? Often I was speaking of people like Lucille Ball, Angela Davis, the great comedians of our time, how these women could be a mixture of people we know and characters we know. So the director is responsible for everything, literally everything. Every decision that is made that is artistic has to kind of be funneled through my purview. And when I think about Liberation, I am a woman from the Midwest, and I care about the things that we go through in our lives. I believe that both of you and me, our everyday decisions are political ones. The way we choose to live our life, whether it's with a man or a woman or anyone, a non-binary person, whether we choose to have children or not, whether we get a driver's license or not, whether we own property or not, whether we have bank accounts or not, whether we feel safe in our bodies, all these things are very important to me. So I think that my stamp on the play that maybe another director wouldn't have had was the patience with which the scenes happen when the women are talking to each other. The action of Liberation is a group of women talking to each other. And I have a particular love for that, interest in that, and so I didn't rush it. I tried to let the conversation happen and guide it in a very particular way that I think speaks to my love of women and my hope for us all to live the lives we want to live safely.
Yeah, one question I had about Liberation is because it is predominantly dialogue, was that a particular challenge to sort of keep it paced over a couple of hours when you're not, there's not a lot of, there's some movement, but for the most part, like you're really captivating people with conversation?
Well, I like to say there are plays that are like there some pieces for theater, theatrical performance are deeply poetic and require big aesthetic leaps like dance and psychological movement and all this. And then some other plays are kind of quotidian plays, slice of life plays, in which you have to find a way to theatricalize the dance of life. And even though the three of us are talking now, like Ashley, you just had a sip of your coffee, Claire, you shifted your head, nobody lives life completely still. There is a natural dance to that. So there was a big choreographic element to staging the play, right? Every time a woman gets up to get something to eat, to get something to drink, every time a woman touches another woman, every time a woman stands up to speak herself, all of this was choreographed to keep the text alive because as long as you're alive, you're in motion. And so we just worked really hard to keep the women moving as they thought and communicated their feelings. I quite enjoy it. Yeah.
Oh my God. Something I noticed about the play is the way they go from obviously strangers, they all meet in the first scene of the play, to like friends who are like physically comforting each other, like touching and hugging and like kind of holding hands. And there's really like there's different relationships that evolve.
I mean, even the full nudity, which is like as kind of intimate as you can be almost with a group of women in a high school basketball gym.
And then, so another question I have, like you're saying with the dance and the choreography, and you have a background in musical theater and music. And Claire and I both read an interview in The Cut where you talk a lot about like the stride of a play, like, the conversations that happen in stride. I think a lot of what you're saying comes from this like incredible connection you have to like expressing through movement and then channeling that through speech or through other means. Is that something that comes naturally to you, or is there like a practice that you have in sort of like connecting your body to the work?
I think it's a mixture of both. Also, thank you for the question. Yeah, when I was 4 years old, I could sing, right? That was like a natural thing. But everybody has a natural talent, but the degree to which you develop it into something that you can use in the world, that's practice. And I would say I very actively engage with an artistic practice. It's like lifting weights at the gym, you got to do reps, you have to put fuel into your tank, And so my practice that allows me to kind of hear the rhythms of a play in a particular way and then motivate actors to speak that language in those rhythms. It's a mixture of like research-based prep and physical prep myself. Like I sometimes have to read entire sections out loud to myself at home. I sometimes have to do like a movement thing that I learned in grad school, and I still do that stuff. You know what I mean? And that will get me in my body and help me understand the characters. And I do a lot of I'm a nerd, I love music and cinema and photography. I'd say that photography is a huge part of my directing practice. Because sometimes if you're watching a film or something, it's too easy to copy it because there's too much information there. But, if you go Google photographs of women in 1970s involved with second wave feminism, that was the whole play right there. I put together like 10 of my favorite images from the time and moved through those images like animation on stage. Sculpture is also really, really helpful. I mean, the cool thing about making theater is I'm not the first person to do it. People have been making theater since the dawn of time. So likely anything you're trying to work on now, someone else has dealt with those themes and you can see how they did it. So it's like I do all these things so that the rhythm and the direction can feel organic and like it's coming from somewhere, not just someone making random decisions. You know what I mean? So I do try and keep up an artistic practice. I want to stay in shape, so to speak, and it helps me do this.
And something I really loved about the play is right up top the way that you have the character of Lizzie, who on stage represents the playwright, and then as a character then plays her own mother. So if you guys haven't seen it, she comes out and breaks the fourth wall, talks to the audience directly. It's super contemporary. She's talking about how your phones have been put in a yonder case. I mean, it's really like you're in that moment with her. And then she talks about how she is made a play, and I found out it wasn't even real. Like I was shocked to find out that Bess Calb actually fictionalized a lot of this, that her mother is still alive, and this is just an amalgamation of different interviews she's done. But for those of you who haven't seen, she says, this is like a play based on my mother's memories. And then she plays her own mother
Mm-hmm.
in the recreation. And I really loved that narrative device. And I thought it was so interesting. And I would love to hear what references you pulled from or what
Yeah.
journey you went through as the director of how you read it and then how it came to be. And if
Yeah.
there was any shifting in the process as you watched
Yeah.
it be marked out for the first time, what you pulled from.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's thrilling, you totally nailed it, is Liberation by Bess Wall is a play that uses meta-theatricality for the lead characters to speak to the audience and then also speak to these wonderful characters from the 70s that she meets. And there's a lot of great the idea of a unreliable narrator taking us through a story is in so many things. And I think the first thing I rely upon most of the time when I'm doing anything is Shakespeare. How many times in a Shakespearean play does Iago come forward and say, I'm going to kill this dude, watch me do it? Or Richard III comes forward and says, I hate the world, let's burn it down. Or Gower comes forward and says, I'm going to tell you the story of Pericles, right? Then you have something like, even Brandon's play Purpose, which just won the Pulitzer and was on Broadway, had a beautiful narrated character. And I tend to like, plays that break the fourth wall and include the audience because we're here. Why are we pretending like we're not sitting there? I think that we're so beyond that. So I drew from all these plays that I just mentioned to kind of understand how to put it up. But even some of your best films have voiceover, right? Or television shows, like something kind of more ridiculous and hilarious, like Gossip Girl and Sex and the City, but also something more profound. So we're not the first ones to do it. And I tried to just think to myself, what are the most engaging ways to have a performer do these meta theatrical sections? And we had to do a lot of trial and error. I'm not gonna lie. It was like, I remember there was an early staging thing when Susanna Flood, who plays Lizzie, the main character who goes in and out in these meta theatrical ways, where she was like way too close to the action. I'm like, oh my God, you're in the scene. Back away a little bit. Okay, maybe let's put a blue light on her. We had to trial and error. We had to try out many different ways to make it clear that this woman goes between 2020 now and 1970, and all of these other characters are in 1970 until the very end, which I don't want to give away. So it took a lot of like experimentation with lights and sound and staging to make that work.
Wow. And then I would love to get into some specific liberation questions, if that's okay with
Hmm.
you. For people, everyone, I recommend go see it. I say bring your mom, bring your grandma. I like can't even. I got to see it with Ashley, friggin' Ashley, my same age. I would have loved to have experienced it with someone from another generation. Have you actually gotten feedback from women from the other generations? What are
Oh
you
my
hearing
gosh.
across the board? Is there a difference in their
Incredible.
response?
Yes, I think that, I spoke to this woman yesterday. She's an Italian artist and journalist who was active in the movement in Italy. And oh gosh, there's nothing like speaking to the women who were alive in that time because they were badasses, you guys. They were doing things that we are not willing to do. And I think that's why I ultimately took the play because I'm like, how come they were so brave and we're all just clicking Instagram posts? It's not enough. Political movements will not happen on Instagram. You know what I mean? So I love talking to the women who were alive then because you kind of I see this thing in their eye and you realize, yeah, these were sexual beings. These were powerful beings. These women were in their prime like us. And, um, it's the 70s. Could you imagine being in your 20s in the 70s? How spicy would that have been? So I like talking to those women because it's very evocative to them in a different way. Whereas for us, I think it's a little more chilling for women our age because we're like, oh no, they fought so hard and now look at us now. What are we going to do? I think when I talk to younger women, they're more shook about the fact that we're still having this conversation. But when I talk to more experienced or aged women, I think they're more transported to a nostalgic kind of sensual place. It's different.
That's one of the things I really appreciated about this play is that it does turn this question, which I think everyone in our generation and younger and maybe a little bit older than me has had, is like this question of what went wrong and not the acknowledgement of a continued movement, which, you could say like right now, I think a lot of people right now would say, well, we're much more progressive than they were in the 70s. But then you look at it, like you were saying, you know, you had these women who were huge badasses, and now we have women who are like, not all, but like a lot of people who think activism is posting on social media. And it really does, I don't know what my exact question is, but it really like brought out this thing of like, what is the evolution of like what is progress, and like what the question isn't like what went wrong, the question is like what do we still need to be doing.
Yeah, and how do we do it? It's a big question. It's really hard to think about people fighting for Roe v. Wade and us being alive in a time where that has been repealed. That is bizarre. That is something I never expected to live through. Um, and what moves me most about the play is that just like we're talking right now, the characters are talking and they realize that talking is political. Talking in real life, IRL, is an action that's worthy. When women talk to each other across party lines, across age, across ethnicity, things happen, right? Intersectional conversation makes things happen and it's dangerous. So I feel, your question that's not a question that is a question is like the crux of the play.
Um, I was wondering how are you as a director hoping people feel as they watch this? Because I think something that I left with is me and Ashley both felt similarly and maybe at different levels, but it doesn't. I had recently seen John Proctor, which feels like it has this kind of like the gals gang together, and for a moment we win, and there is this cathartic moment of even though
Yeah.
and there is this funny thing. You're like, and Trump is president, and we haven't gotten that far, but you're given this moment in the room of the theater of being like, and for a moment we won, and I think something your play does is it acts as this mirror, and it does reflect a lot of the way we're feeling of like sadness, like how did we go backwards, will it be a fight forever? And there's really some beautiful, intense moments of like intergenerational, I feel like the feminism, but then also just the personal level of like, how do we square like our beliefs with our choices and the infinite difficulty of like, I don't know, how do you be a feminist who's married to a man?
Yeah. I mean, I think really the like my hope is people will walk away thinking about that a little bit more than the big scary political things. It's like love and protest are really complex. And I think that there's a sexier, to me, the play is about something deeper than just feminism. It's just how do we live our lives when everything is a contradiction, Everyone is a hypocrite. And I think John Proctor it was really sweet that they showed this moment of like, we're all together, hurrah. And I think what makes the plays extremely different is Liberation actually shows the fight. Liberation shows what happens when, like, if you keep it real, you don't agree with your homegirls, even if you're all quote unquote liberal, right? Where Liberation looks at how liberalism falls apart, actually. And I
Yes.
think that that is the tea. Like, the hypocrisy of liberalism is one of my favorite aspects of the play.
I mean, truly is having a boyfriend embarrassing the larger political narrative.
Oh my God, that article sent me, and I was like, is my husband in my photos? Should my husband be in my photos? It was so 2020 now. Yeah.
And I have to ask, so you were saying in 2020, the play was written, and I know you guys have come from the Roundabout Theater, and you talk about when the play moved to Broadway, like, I kind of feel like the water was coming up around us. Like, I don't want to, how does that feel to have, as a director, to have a play be like more of its time than you're
Yeah.
hoping it could? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it
It's
feels like, oh,
strange.
wow, it really makes the play pack a punch, I think, but it also
Yeah.
sucks.
I think it's really surreal, I'm not gonna lie. And I'll be honest, I often tried to tune that reality out because I think if I got bogged down into the kind of one-to-one ratio of political issues that for which the play applies to now, I think the play wouldn't have as much levity and fun. Because I'm also trying to be honest about myself. Like, I'm very concerned about where we're at as a society and as a culture, but I also don't want to be preached at. I don't want to be lectured. I myself am like fragile and I'm desperate for a laugh. I'm desperate for a good time. I'm hopeful that I can learn something about politics, but also be transported. And so it was a seesaw act because it was like every single day, every single headline. just made the play louder and louder and louder. But at the same time, I want to make art that isn't just a sermon. Like, I'm not interested in that. My own life, for every sad moment I've ever experienced, I also laughed the next day. So I honestly had to like turn off I think I like had 2 weeks straight where like I just wasn't on Instagram. I wasn't, I wasn't in the media cycle as much because I'm just like, these women in the 70s weren't either. They would read the newspaper, but they weren't swimming in it the way that we are. So I try to force myself to just be a little analog while I was directing it on Broadway. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had any fun, and then the play wouldn't be any fun. And if it's no fun, who wants to come see it, you know?
No, I was shocked at what a comedy it was. It
Yeah.
really is like you're just laughing until you're crying.
Yeah.
I have a question about a specific character in the play.
Okay.
Joanne is a character who comes in the first half
Yeah.
looking for a backpack. She offers comedic relief. She's funny. And then she comes back and even self addresses like that they don't really use her much except for them to come in and play Lizzie's mother for a moment during a romantic. And then
Hmm.
again, she has a conversation about inclusivity. I'm really interested in the conversations you had about the character of Joanne and what you feel her importance in the play was.
Oh my gosh, what a great question. I mean, it also goes back to the first thing you asked, like, what is the role of the director? I think that that scene in which Joanne enters and has that scene as Lizzie's mother and then as herself is a
Mm-hmm.
real, is something I'm really proud of as a collaborator because it required a lot of dialogue. Because this one woman, played by Kayla Davion, who's incredible, has to come in and in one scene she plays three people. She plays a version of herself, she plays her mother, Lizzie's mother, and then she plays Joanne. And it's a continuous scene in which one woman plays three people. And that took a lot of work. It took a lot of conversation. How did these three people sound? What's different between these three characters? But also, what can be shared so it doesn't feel like you're just being Jekyll and Hyde, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And we had to talk about like what is the key essence of the actor, of Kayla? Like what is her essence that's gonna take her through those three women, you know? And then we had to find technical ways to embody these three women, two of whom are black and one is not. You know, how can we do that honestly in a love scene? You know, when you're in a love scene with a dude, love scenes are the worst. They're so hard. They're so any kind of romantic love scene or fight scene, I think they're so hard because you're locked in with one person. There's no way out. And you have to deal with intimacy. The inevitable kind of elephant in the room is like, when are they going to touch? When are they going to kiss? How's it going to happen? So I also worked with an intimacy coordinator there. It was like very, very complex. And I knew that, in directing the scenes and talking with the actor and playwright, I kept having one phrase in my mind, walk a mile in my shoes. Have you heard that before? It's like if you could walk a mile in someone else's shoes, then you'd understand. And that's how I kind of landed on the idea that Caleb would put on the mother's shoes and we would stop the action. We would have a moment of quiet and have this black woman put on this white woman's shoes and walk a mile in her life. And then when she comes out of the scene, she takes them off. I think it's one of my favorite things I've ever put into a play, because it's like a moment where like a director concept and the playwright's instruction can come together, and with us together, Bess and I found something greater, you know?
Well, I find that so interesting. Something I'm so interested in with this play is because you have this character of Lizzie who acts as playwright on stage. She's able to, I almost say, like explain herself. Do you know what I mean? And I think there's a lot of explaining, especially you're as a white woman writing this play about feminism in the 70s and how do you tell an intersectional story while also staying in your lane and not speaking for someone else. And I'm just very curious about
Yeah,
what your take on like explaining yourself in art, explaining yourself around your art.
yeah.
I'm really interested in your
It's
take on,
tricky. I
yeah.
mean, I don't tend to explain myself much in my art. I'm kind of like, you see what you see and you get what you get. and I hope you feel like you're welcome. The only thing I try to explain in every play I direct or write or perform is like the audience is welcome. I want you to come. I don't care who you are. You're welcome to come to my shows. I don't have any kind of like this theater is only for this type of person. I like really don't believe that because the church I was raised in was not like that. I could take y'all to my church. I could bring my hairdresser to my church. Anybody is welcome. And the theater must be that way. And that sounds like an easy thing to achieve. It's not easy. Theaters are big institutions, moneyed institutions, and not everyone feels welcome there. And it's not about ethnicity or color. Like plenty of people, black, white, and in between, don't feel welcome in theaters, in opera houses, right? So that's the only thing I try to explain. I think Bess, however, as a playwright, she's working through all these intellectual ideas. And I think I find it very brave that she's trying to work out, hey, I am aware that I am a white identifying cisgendered woman playing with characters who identify differently than me. She has a love of all these characters, but in honesty in the play about when the play isn't about those characters or when those characters take over the play. And that's why I took it. I wouldn't have taken it had I would not have chosen to direct this play had the playwright not exhibited such a beautiful, patient desire to understand many sides of one coin, of one issue.
Interesting. Thank you. And I'm so interested because then at the end of the play, we have this moment between Lizzie and, again, it's so complicated, like Lizzie and
Hmm.
an actress playing her own mother. And she makes this joke, like, you got it all wrong.
Hmm.
What, in your mind, like, what does that do to the whole play? Like,
I
because
love
I
it.
know
I
you
I
love
love
it.
it. You got it
Because I,
wrong.
yeah.
I think it's like theater is artifice. It's fake.
Hmm.
We're making it up. Little kids do it. They make playtime. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And I kind of love that we're in this important play about these important things, and the character who's supposed to be someone's dead mother just goes, "Yeah, you messed everything up. You don't know what you're talking about." I think that's so great because it kind of it it makes the play grounded. It's not snobby. You know, we're not trying to say we know everything. We don't know anything. We just know we want to talk about it and live a little better. It's not so hoity-toity, you know? And I really like that because, again, I'm from the Midwest. Like, I think that beat really makes the play in an unintellectual way very approachable and understandable.
I also found that part really positive because I think that at a certain point when you're like trying to understand someone, like you are inventing all of these characters in your head and like
Hmm.
putting all of these thoughts and dialogue to them, and that's
Hmm.
just not what happened necessarily, but like it could be in the vein of what generally happened. The thing I wanted to ask earlier is, as someone who has kind of wholly immersed yourself into this world, you said that a lot of what's happening in the real world is happening in conversation with the play, but you're having to sort of separate yourself out, but you're also working on like 20 other projects. How do
I couldn't
you
believe it. It's so much.
so like in tandem with trying to kind of silo like world news, which is crazy, with portraying this very like poignant story, and then you're also working on a bunch of other stories, how do you create that space within yourself?
That's a great question. I don't know. Honestly, I don't have an answer. I just do. I think that the research and prep is everything. I don't think that directing is a job that you can just show up to without any forethought. Like, I don't just show up in a rehearsal room and then wing it, you know? And the way that I make space in myself is taking the time to carve out different concepts per play and different opinions on each play and musical, and hopefully someday film, and hopefully someday TV. Everything that I work on, it needs an opinion and a point of view. And if I can't find that opinion and point of view, I shouldn't be directing it. Like that I am literally that rigorous about it. If I cannot find the time to like think something through and form my own understanding of it, I can't do it. So that's kind of how I do it. You make space by making time to find an opinion about something, you know?
How does your work as an actor inform your directing?
I just like actors. I think my work as an
Yeah.
actor makes me like actors. They feel like my people. Not every director likes actors. Um, no, I
Well,
have a
some
lot of
actors
love.
make it hard.
True. But I have a great love for them. They're doing something incredibly brave. You know, they
Mm.
have to do it every night, 6 to 8 times a week. And I just have a base level of respect for that. Like, I can tell you what I want you to do all day, but at the end of the day, after opening, it's them out there every night. It's
Mhm.
them making the show work and live on. So I think you just got to have some respect for that, and you can't diminish what a sacrifice and contribution that is, you know? I think it makes me like game sees game there. I respect that. Yeah.
A question I have, I was reading all about you, and something I was so excited about and so sad to have missed at BAM was your play, Macbeth and Stride. Is there anywhere that that still exists where people can
Yes.
watch it?
I'm actually about to go do a new version of it in London within days.
Wait, is that what you're
To
acting?
Yes, that's what I'm doing at the RSC. I'm doing a new version of that with several other Shakespearean women, with a band, a four-person band, and a six-person ensemble.
Wow, should we go to
So,
Wait,
London?
yeah,
I'm
come. You should
wait, how
come.
long is it running there?
I think we run like mid-January to the end of February.
I can't believe I missed it at BAM, which is like so
It was
close to
only
me.
like we performed at BAM for like 2 days in a dream. That was the shortest run of my life. You know, it was
Okay.
wonderful though. I had a wonderful experience, but yeah.
And
Wow.
you've been working on this play specifically for, I know at the time I read about it was like 9 years, and that might have been,
Yeah, that's
you're a
about
year
right.
ago.
I don't want to age myself here, so I hate talking about that truth. But yeah, it's like something I started when I was in graduate school, if you can believe it.
But I'm so inspired by that because I think there is such a feeling of I have this great idea, but when will the time come to
Yeah, to do
bring it
it.
to fruition? Can you talk about that process?
I mean, that is the elephant in the room, I think, for a lot of projects that I want to do. Uh, I've been ready to wanting to try and do them a long time. But even now, you know, this performance I did at BAM was always part of a four-part series. Like always. I performed parts of them at Joe's Pub. I performed them around the country. And like I've been trying to get an American institution to do them all. And it's really weird and ironic and wonderful, but weird that the first time all of them will be done is by the Royal Shakespeare Company in London. I've also been thinking a lot about cabaret. Like Marsha Wallace just starred in cabaret here, and she was iconic. But she is a Black American actor, and she started that role in London first, not here.
Hmm.
So I'm often looking at like who's ready to tell the story when, and what does that say about where we're
Interesting.
at. I mean, a less hoity-toity way to talk about it is like I don't know if you watch Love Island, but like Love Island USA versus Love Island in UK, the Black women's experience on those shows, it could not be more different. It's honestly, I can't stop watching it because it's such a fascinating like experiment to me. But yeah, I'm incredibly excited to go over to the UK and do it. I'm terrified. I mean, they have some of the best actors in the world over there. Um, but hey, I'm gonna try it. I'm compelled to do it, and I can't stop until I do it, so I'm doing it, you know.
I think you've answered all my questions really wonderfully, and I'm really excited
Us
about
coming to
what's
London
coming to London.
to watch you. I would love to end on just a note of, do you have for the group 4 or 5 pieces of media that have really inspired you? I'm so interested in like your range from opera to
Yeah.
musical theater to straight plays to acting directing. Do
One
you
of
Yeah.
them can be Love
the
Island UK.
photography? Yeah, the photography. But like what
Yes.
do you want to recommend to
Yes.
people? Because we're trying to get them to get out.
One battle, I think the film that has influenced me most in thinking about liberation and my own life and how the pursuit of self-actualization is in direct conflict with the creation of family is One Battle After
Interesting.
Another with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tiana. I mean, that film is incredible. It's incredible and it deeply inspired me in this time. And I highly recommend everyone go to BAM. BAM cinemas are so great and see it. Another thing that's inspired me was some of the writing of Angela Davis. I mean, if you really go back and look at some of her writing, not just the speeches, because when an artist sits down to write, there's a different degree of thought that goes into it. it's very inspiring stuff. Some of it might be a little frightening, and feel a little like the soda cans being shook, but I highly recommend that. Another thing that's been inspiring me is a book by Johnny Pitts, actually called Afropean. I highly recommend you just buckle up, download it on Audible, and listen to it. It's a kind of, you know, socio-political text in which he goes to visit different cities around Europe and kind of retells these encounters on the street he has with people, and those encounters open up historical language. And I love it because like we live in New York City and I'm always traveling in different cities to work, and I love the idea that like an exchange with a stranger could open up a historical understanding. That's been really amazing. And music wise, Nine Inch Nails just did a tour, and you can watch clips of it online with Boys Noise. And they came to Barclays, and it was my, I think, seventh time seeing Nine Inch Nails live. And that has blown me away. It's like he just gets better and better, Trent Reznor. So go, everyone listening, go check out Trent Reznor. Check out his latest tour because I've never seen an artist reinvent their own sound so many different ways. And those are the things I want to cite right now. One battle after another, a little Nine Inch Nails. Yeah, those are some sources right now for you. And Afropean by Johnny Pitts.
Thank you so much for being here. This was an incredible conversation.
Yeah, I really have just been loving reading all of your interviews and
Thank
everything
you.
done. I love Liberation. I'm so excited to like follow your career and
Thank
see
you.
everything you do. So
Thank you for
so
coming.
much.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you for listening.
Oh my God, and break a leg or what do you? Yeah, break a leg with
Definitely. Break it
how
all.
exciting! Oh my God, I can't believe that's. But she said you're there acting. I guess it's so much. It's everything.
Let's
You
just see how it
invented
goes. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it
Okay.
goes.
I believe in it. Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much.